Welcome. See that everyone is here already. Jack, Theo, Marian, Julia, of our 80s, True Name, Blue, Clucky. Thank you for joining us. We are going to start. Oh, I see also Kang is here. I see Pampero to help you all here. Thank you so much, Marian. So let's get into it. We are now once again with governance scope. Welcome to our 32nd AVC Subcommittee meeting. So go straight ahead with the topics for today. Now we've had different discussion on what do we want to focus on for this week, and we agree on the fact that these are what is the most relevant to discuss about. We actually have different topics, we actually have proposals, but we kind of like agree on the fact that since the changes as it has been happening lately, and now with all the changes, what really it's the most relevant at the moment, it's to really focus on the gate and yeah, on the next generation atlas. But of course we do understand that as an ABC we need to have every weekly like focus as well on each scope. So that's why we also have we agreed that these topics are kind of also related to this scope, to governance. So yes, that's why we're gonna be more focused as well on the gate without leaving the scope. So just wanted to point that out. Hey, they unknown builder Pipkin. Hi. Okay, so we're gonna start straight away. We're going to start with this, which is about. I think this was one of the most the topics that everyone was commenting on, because there were like different opinions on this about alignment, misalignment, the definition, examples. I saw many ABCs subcommittee meetings discussing these on the forum as well. So just to put in some context into this, this was related to a. Oh, thank you for sharing. On the forum, it was this post by GFX Labs, and they were like discussing and mentioning about the challenge of balancing fairness and subjectivity, but focus on the fact that if someone did something wrong. And I'm just going to mention this about the subjectivity, that it's very related, and this specific part was discussed. And I mean, not about like if someone does something wrong, but it was more about, okay, but subjectivity in the fact that what is actually a good performance made by ecosystem actors when they are asking for a specific task. Let's say in the workshops, right? When ALB was explaining, okay, and you're going to be the reviewers, and you're going to um, have to make some scores when it comes to the performance. And it was like, okay, but how what conditions or criteria do we need to follow in order to, okay, this is actually a good performance or not really. We are going to discuss that also in the upcoming minutes. But for this particular post that they mentioned about the subjectivity when determining if someone did something wrong, there were like a lot of suggestions about the evaluation, like it should be consistent for everyone involved. um they made an example that I believe not very far from the what could really happen in this context, about what if someone um suggests changes to the purpose system. And well, they even mentioned about like if Rune did the same thing, would it be wrong or not? um and something else to point out about this post is about this environment of forcing people to publicly criticize others unless it's necessary, because of this specific kind of behavior would promote an environment where people are like pressured to condemn each other, and we will have, I would say, toxic or more toxic with this kind of behavior. And this goes against the principles for what it's supposed to be, right? Like open discussion. And they will just suggest that we should like encourage respectful disagreement without the need for mandatory combination. And okay, this is like the first part. And then why we decided to mention this, because um well, there's like a quote in here, and they say like, this is a quote from the Atlas. It says ACs must always act to preserve the spirit of the Atlas and to generally fight against all norms of corruption, organizational drift, and other misalignment threats. And it's interesting because in one of the examples that they mention, it's about the concept, the spirit of the Atlas. And I think this is the perfect moment that we should discuss, and we should really reflect on what really is spirit of the Atlas. This is going to help now that we're focusing on the next generation Atlas, and they were trying to improve, focus on this. um they mentioned on the post that this, I mean, the concept of a spirit of the Atlas is like too vague and again subjective. And they made an example that for me, it's like it's still in my mind. It's like if you ask different ecosystem actors what it's for them, the spirit of the Atlas, you're gonna receive different responses. And so this is why we are currently working, and shout out to PB or Pedro that is here, and this kind of like collecting data, not just for example, right now that we're focusing on the term spirit of the Atlas, but any term that we as ecosystem actors that are actively participating in maker governance, which should really understand. And it's not like, okay, I understand it, but it does not make sense to me, or my understanding is different from another ABC member perspective. And so we're kind of like working, like collecting, not only collecting, but making in different scenarios, um, using, of course, the atlas as example of in all the atlas what kind of context they are using this specific term, how do they define in a spirit of the atlas, and if this it's clear in all of the aspects or in every section, or if there is kind of like an ambiguity in the example that they mentioned, in the context that they mentioned, with the definition that they are that it is there. And so, well, we put it out there. We also, since this is from LB, we also quoting some of the comments they made. And then, oh well, they even point about the organizational drift, and that this idea seems like contradictory because in the in the in the process that we are now, and because there have been like many significant changes, right? It's just um it's contradictory with this term. Well, in this part they also mention, and they address specific examples um of these changes. I think that we are all aware. um and then something that they suggest is that there's no need to create a culture of suspicion where everyone is like watching each other closely for any sign of disagreement. I think that this is, for example, like how um I guess ADs right now are like feeling right now, since they need to be, and that's actually part of the role, right? They need to be very um um they need to take care of their privacy, right? And I suppose that they are in this context constantly taking care of everything, and um that's part of their role again, as because they're anonymous, but we shouldn't have this kind of environment for every ecosystem actor where they are um in this, they're suspicious of everyone, and they are watching each other closely for any sign of disagreement, and even if they disagree, it's not really a bad thing. And something else in here, it's about that I think in our calls we have been mentioning it a lot. It's about assigning specific roles, but in here they mention about specific roles for monitoring, so that is gonna be like helpful for everyone. And just want to see if there's anything here. No. Okay, and then here Pedro also comments, and I don't know if you want to add something in here, Pedro. You can write it on the chat. But well, he agrees with GFX Labs about a certain things, and he asks about what would be considered wrong not to react to a new idea that might be against the rules, or the other way around. Like why it would be considered right to censor a proposal that would be against the rules if executed later on. And I think again, I think we can all agree on this, on the fact that we are having difficulty, or we are struggling to understand how we should balance like our responsibility to, as you know, as ABC member or like the ecosystem actor, to maintain the integrity of of maker, but or of this specific case of the end game, while also allowing for open discussion and criticism. Criticism is not always bad. It actually sometimes is necessary. And so Pedro also mentions like if we're allowed to question decisions or directions without being seen as acting against, for example, as against maker or against well, endgame that it's maker, right? So having said that, is there like anyone that has ever felt like this way, like, okay, if I comment on this, probably they're gonna um see me as I don't agree, or I shouldn't be having this specific role. Well, this is also the moment to kind of like let's discuss this. And that's why they mention, I mean, Pedro mentions about if the project becomes way too focused on enforcing alignment. I think this is the term of this. I wouldn't say this quarter, but this year maybe. Um, and if it's really only focused on enforcing alignment, it could limit the diversity of opinions, approaches, and this could like potentially lead to biased decision making. I think that we should avoid that, right? And well, and they also, well, of course, according to the atlas, um I think that if I'm misunderstanding, you can write on the chat, but preventing misalignment would be the responsibility of facilitator DAO, right? This they be rewarded for maintaining alignment with their specific areas or responsibility. And Pedro's comments, he says like, now it's like every participant to police alignment could create tension, and it's gonna be more difficult for like new people if they want like to join or to participate. It's gonna be like not that welcoming. And before going into the next part, that we are trying to not work as a proposal per se, but just like to keep that in mind in what we should be avoiding or actually improving. First I want to mention also Kianga's comments that is also here. If you want to like uh elaborate on this, please go ahead. But it's like it's crucial to have clear obligations and penalties for not meeting those obligations, and it's kind of like that's why we put it into here. Like that's the first two things that we're going to focus on, which is clarity of responsibilities. Um, that works for everyone. I to my belief, and then clarify the concept of the spirit of the atlas. And again, I think that I've seen this different ecosystem actors that have been commenting into this. Well, I also mentioned here like community engagement, objective decision making, consensus building, but let's focus on the first, which is what really is like clarify what really is the spirit of the atlas. So, and this is kind of like also an introduction for what we want to now what we focus on, which is the next generation atlas and gate. And that I feel like, I don't know if you feel this way, but like every week it's you learn something else, and it makes you have more questions, which actually means that you are understanding a little bit more. And since you get more context, and right now that we also have the work by the 80s, also it helps a lot. Like I'm very expecting for the next workshop, so we can now with the help of LB like review some examples. Okay, so focusing on this that I mentioned earlier about this is from something that we're working on, and this like a work in progress, and we really believe that this is going to help with our work as our reviewers. Some well, as sovereign finance AVC members, we're focusing on this role of reviewers. And okay, so the process for this has been like collecting data from 80s, from their work that they've been presenting, and that's why we understand that currently that this is the moment I mean, especially now that embassy members have to review the work. Um, and for this, we need to also understand the very basic things from the atlas. That would be like what it is the atlas, right? And what are the roles for alignment conserver as well. So that's what we put in here. To really get what the spirit of the atlas is about, we need to understand the rules it lays down, and that comes from studying the people it's meant to regulate. So it's like um put it in a document everything with the definitions made by the atlas, and also the definitions that ecosystem actors, let's say ADs or AVC members, understand. And then as individuals, for example, okay, do I, for me it's kind of like the same, do I have the same definition, or do I understand the same as as the others? Like, are they expressing what the atlas stated? What am I getting from this? Like, we are asking different questions that is going to help be more clear with the definition that it's supposed to be. And how we truly understand from this term. And not only that, but this exercise also is going to help now with the roles that you have, as some of you as drafters, some of you as reviewers. And we believe that I mean, this is something that we're working on. It's not finished. It's actually, it's work in progress. But um the purpose of this is that we understand, and we have a completely I don't know if database, but specific examples, so we can with that later use to improve the next generation atlas. And so that's why we with the first part. And then um we mentioned that if alignment conservers were only looking out for themselves, they could mess up how things are supposed to work. And again, that the term that everyone is discussing, like everyone, it's alignment. Like what it really means, what actions are considered misaligned, or what is actually aligned with the atlas, what is aligned with endgame. Well, this is just one of the questions. And maybe if you ask yourself, like, what exactly do I mean when I am talking about, or what when I read this on the atlas, is it really what everyone is explaining? They also this has also been asked in, I think, in ecosystem workshops. LB has also mentioned it. So I think this is the moment that we should focus on having the not only the definition there, but that we truly understand, and that it's clear, and that makes sense for us. Okay, then something else that we're working on, and this is more for in order to understand our task, and this has to do with LB's workshop. So, well, this week we there so far it has not been hasn't been a workshop, because it's expected to be probably Friday or Monday. But this is from the previous one. So what we're actually doing, it's okay. So we are like different members, and so what do you understand from the specific elements? So we're gonna work on all of this. Like we should be familiar with what its article functions, what its module, what its atomic section, element annotation, action tenants, scenarios, and many more elements, right? I think that since 80s have already present this work, and we've read like some of them, and the struggles that they have are like, oh, I thought this was article function, but then later on I figured out it was actually not. It was atomic section, or it was module. And so not only have the definitions that, of course, LV has um, made an awesome work with all of these, like the creation of all these, but also, okay, what is actually the difference between them? Is it clear? Is it clear for me to tell them apart? And I think that the 80s could tell us more about this, but yes. So it's like we're doing the yeah, differences between each of them, like each element, and also the difference between the drafters and the reviewers. I think so far we know a little bit more just because you have already given the task from the drafter, but so far what we know about the reviewers. So that's why we also pointed on in here. If anyone else like it's interesting to get to know actually more and to read that documents that it's actually in it's a work in progress. That's why it's not published yet. Um, but again, since now we're focusing on this on this specific tasks, we should be very familiar and to be able to differentiate it, like to tell them apart. So that's why we're working on this. I don't know if it's anyone has anything else to add in. Oh, I see that comments in here. Um, Hey Maxine. Uh Martin says we, the lawyers, usually use the concept of general principles of law, which is great concept of moral, cultural, and social roots that end up composing an idea of accepted and unaccepted conduct. When there is no specific rule, it's very subjective and usually brings many conflicts and contradictory opinions. We can avoid finding connections with this when we talk about the spirit of the atlas. Definitely, it's not. I think we can all agree that it's not 100% clear the term, and we should be working on because that is one of the most important terms and from currently from the atlas from endgame from maker, and so it should be um yeah, that definitely should be improved. Well, thank you Mira for your comment. Okay, and now anyone wants to, before I go to the next part, like to comment on the struggles from this specific task that US80 has presented, and I would like to comment on this. I mean, it's so far there is just everyone has just presented, and it's gonna be to my mind it's gonna be like we will have the workshop that already LB commented is gonna be probably on Friday or Monday, and it's going to make examples. And actually, I'm very excited because I feel like so far we've had theory, and personally, it's better when it's practice. It's a more not on only dynamic, but I personally I learn way more like that. So yes, I'm expecting from these workshops. Okay, now focusing on the submissions. I don't know if anyone wants to comment anything in specific from the submissions that you have read or you have worked on. And oh yeah, I mean, there's also Eddie commented that it's gonna be a guide. Um, that it's gonna be, well, there's no date for this, but it's gonna be really helpful because I don't. Let's bring back the also Elvis guide when, well, it was kind of a little bit different, but in some ways also similar the dynamic when only facilitators and ADs have their task, and AD made all of these I'm sorry, LB made all these posts with, okay, this is the process for me, and I have been struggling these, and then I figure out this and that, and according to a lot of ecosystem actors that were also working on or had to present the same role, it helped a lot. And so I'm glad that we're going to have something similar, and it's going to be I mean, helpful, right? We are in this new, we're learning, and something that is, it's still like, it's in my mind, is the fact that it doesn't matter if we're start or we don't understand at the beginning, or we're struggling, because again, it's this is like a new dynamic. And we actually talk about it internally. It's like, okay, but of course we need to to have a great performance. um but of course there are some doubts, like what if at the beginning I'm not understanding, or I'm struggling on. um I think that now it's the moment that we should make all the mistakes, because we're just starting on. Well, that's my point of view. There were also some kind of like I don't know if it's not mistakes, but misunderstanding when it comes to annotation and tenants. Which I actually I copied this from the forum, so I thought it was like tenants, no tenants. But what would you say it's what tell them apart, or like the biggest um differentiation? I don't know if that's the term. Like, it's uh, what is the easiest way to tell them apart? If you are struggling, if this example is really an annotation on a tenant, I would like to know. I would like to know Clocky's. Clocky's always understanding on. Clocky's comment says, "I encountered a formidable challenge in areas." Really, it was considerably more time intensive than anticipated. Oh, that is very interesting. I actually thought that scenarios would be the easier. I mean, I haven't done it, but from the explanations from LD and the examples that they give on the workshop, I totally thought it would be like easier. Then what was the easiest for you, Clucky? And Blue, that is also here, and actually all the delegates that are here, if you can know more. And if there is any AVC member that just for fun, or just for the fact that to have the experience, have many examples on this, we actually also wanted to work on this, just to kind of like understand a little bit more. Then it says, oh yeah, I'm there about the fact that it's. I think that everyone is gonna be very expectant on the next workshop, because it's gonna be like, okay, who do you think has done so far the best um that assignment, and if it's really what. I don't know if, yeah, LB is the one that understands and this. So what I am looking for right now is like to really understand how to properly review this. And I think that as reviewers, we all should be focusing on this specific task. Um, and that's why I put it here. What has been the most challenging so far? Already, Clocky mentioned it has been in areas, which, wow, that's very interesting. Would you like to say something else? I don't know, Blue, um, true name. I will be reading yours as well, true name. Jack, or to anyone actually too who would like to comment into this. And what's, since you have already presented, like what's the most like challenging, like the complex one, the easiest one, and how do you tell them apart? Was it clear enough, the definitions made by LB, that you, okay, and I know that for some of you has been some struggle from the your own comments on this. Oh, I see that your name is typing. Oh well, we are, I'm not sure if today there's gonna be, probably not, because it's a lot of war reviewing this, and since so far the only one that can do this, it's LP. Awesome, I see now that Blue and True Name are typing. And to the members, I don't know if there's anything else that I have missed that I haven't mentioned that I should. Please also let me know. Your name says we also fund. Oh, okay, scenarios. Because the other substantive work was much more involved once we started dissecting the atomic sections in depth. So scenarios is the most challenging one. And for blue, drafter and the viewers. Oh, okay. Blue says realize that we may have to backtrack a bit to the original source and the original context document will be very important for drafters and reviewers. The easiest one, so are the rest, I guess, like annotations. What should we as you that have more experience now, I mean, you have presented. Oh wait, Koki says the manner I conceive of the differentiation between tenants and an annotation is that tenants are more legal and explicate how things ought to transpire, ought to be enforced. They are extrapolations of rules from the target documents. Annotations, on the other hand, hardly furnish pertinent context. Yeah, a footnote in a page of an outlook. Yeah, that's. I would say that's the easiest way to to understand it. Footnote. Is has anyone has trouble in the fact that yeah, Elvi explained that I don't know if it's just me, but I understood that we would have. I know that many from you are lawyers, but we will have to use. I don't know if use or understand legal aspects, and for that, it will be not the whole workshop into that, but we're gonna have like a topic into this. Since not everyone it's a lawyer, but I'm glad that sovereign finance actually have has lawyers, and I know that more ABCs also have some of you. So, but yes, uh, interesting. Thank you, Clocky and Bulb, for sharing. I don't know if there's anything else that you would like to mention that we should have in mind, or maybe just people that wants to understand more into this, because now I feel like now that we're gonna be reviewing, that's when we're going to learn the most. I mean, just the same as you, all of you, the drafters that have created and have been crafting, as the word said. That's the best way to understand this. And so probably once we get done, I mean, we had the workshop and we are gonna ask, and I remember this from the workshop as well, that 80s can, of course, can the ones that understand the most have also a light or give a light on us. Okay, so yes, these are the two things that we're working on besides, of course, as a role as a drafter. I'm sorry, as a reviewers. I'll be showing an example in which we started with annotations and then found it more appropriate to approach the subject by tenants. We're internalizing the theory, but I am sure that in practice many doubts will arise. Yeah, right now it's like we're collecting everything, like every data, and we actually I'm not gonna share it, but we have um like integration process workflow, sorry, and then it's like everything is like, okay, what do we understand about atlas axis and drafters and the reviewers, and what is actually the workflow that so far we understand, and then the concepts that I mentioned, right? So each of us has like similarities, of course, but then we understand some specific topics differently, and that's why we need to be careful. And okay, and so far, I don't know if there's to the 80s any questions that you may have now that you have send your submission, your data assignment. probably have a lot of questions actually, but you're probably gonna ask directly to LB on the workshop. Well, if there is no other comment into this, I think that there are many interesting points of view and the way of working, and we were discussing internally, and we probably next week we're gonna be more specific on because right now we have no clue or how we really should review, and so that's why we don't want to like mess up. And but yeah, next week we're going to um have some of the data assignments. I'm going to discuss them, not all of them, but some. uh, and so yeah, that will be all for today. And uh, these documents that we're gonna work on are gonna be weekly. We're going to share like the news that our struggles and what we have understood more. And yes, I think this is gonna help everyone, that because we're in the same stage, right? So we should do everything in order for us to make, I don't know if it's simple, but in a way that we can understand way more, and it makes it clear for everyone. I think that's the whole point. So yeah, that will be all for today, and we'll see you yeah, we'll see you in our next subcommittee call. So that's all for today. I'm going to go for the next slide, which is, oh, actually, I forgot it was also this part. But yeah, actually, this was if we didn't have the time. Uh, well, hold up there, because we there is also this part that we were gonna focus again, as I mentioned, the next generation atlas. And if we finish with all of that, then that was fine. But since we have more minutes, this is from the scope as well. So just gonna very briefly mention this, that probably you have already also seen on the post about the update of the MIP 62, that it's by GFF Labs, and that it's basically to update some terms that maker governance does not use anymore. And yes, you can see here, replace core unit facilitator, MIP editor, vertical system actor. So of course that there are a lot of terms, and actually new terms are being born, right? Like, or change or updated. And this should be also in the, I mean, updated in MIP 62. Um, and again, what true name says, by the spirit of the rule, it should be interpreted as that MIP 62 is obsolete. Decisions about collateral offboarding follow specific proposals and recommendations made by the funding labs. A stability scope advisory council member via labs and ecosystem team as a stability co-facilitator. So there are like two different I don't know if you call it a scenario, but points of view that is important to mention. So yeah, we put it here. Oh, in true name, I don't know if you want to add something from this. Well, we put it just to everyone should be aware. And well, yeah. So if you want to like to add something or to comment, this is in the post. But yeah, we decided to mention it, of course, but to keep our focus on what to our mind it's the most important right now. I mean, apart from the scopes, right? It's the elaboration of the next generation atlas, and that now I think we are understanding more the rules. And so yeah, that's why we're not dedicating as much time as before, and we're trying to focus on what really going to help us and help the next generation atlas be the best. So now I think this is it. So that's all Thank you so much for your time and attention, and see you next week. Bye bye.